very warm welcome and thank you all for having me. I just want to say a big thank you for Jackie for putting through another amazing Congress. I hope you're all feeling just as inspired as I am. So, as I mentioned, my name's Natan Noel and I'm a marine scientist at the South Australian Environment Protection Authority. Where do I point? There we go. So this is a map of Aboriginal Australia. So I'm of Dunghutti descent. So I'm third generation removed, which means that my dad's grandma was stolen from her country. So I'm on a bit of a journey myself to kind of reconnect with my country, my culture, and my community. And I want to bring what I've learnt, does that work? as a marine biologist to help protect the sea country of Dunghutti country and all Aboriginal country. So Dunghutti is over here on the northern New South Wales, just before the border of Queensland, just here. So I always get, so does everyone here know what a marine biologist does? Call it out if you can. I've got a lot of answers. So there should be something there that looks like the ocean, but for some reason it's just gone white. So being a marine biologist is quite a broad term, so that could be anything from studying the waves and the currents. Everyone knows the EAC from Finding Nemo, East Australian Current. Very important for transporting nutrients, bacteria and viruses, and these nutrients and everything feeds these beautiful coral reefs, which also transports stuff like plankton. I love SpongeBob, I hope there's some SpongeBob fans. Plankton are very, very important for the ecosystem. They feed fish all the way from the bottom, all the way up to your big macrofauna like your whales. But it's not just stuff that's contained in the ocean. There's also what's around the ocean, above the ocean. So the birds, these are a puffin. I always get asked two questions when I tell people I'm a marine biologist. What do you actually do? And have you ever seen a shark? So I'll attempt to answer both these questions for you today, but I think I can get the first one out of the way pretty easily. Probably should have put some music saying, baby shark, do 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 do. So I'm by no means a professional videographer, just a guy that gets around with a GoPro. So can anyone tell me what type of shark this is? Does anyone know? Yell it out, come on. Oh, I heard lots. I heard great white. I wouldn't be in the water if that was a great white. So this is actually a grey nurse shark, or sometimes called a sand tiger shark, or a rugged tooth shark. So pretty easily identified. They have these teeth that kind of poke out the front of their mouth. Very important species. I love sharks. They're so important to an ecosystem as a top-down predator, meaning that they pretty much clean up any sick animal that is in the water. It's funny someone said great white shark because these were misidentified in the early 1900s to be man-eaters. They're not. These are like little puppy dogs of the ocean, pretty much. I wouldn't be that close if they weren't safe. But yeah, it wasn't until 1987 that they got a level of protection. People just didn't understand how important they are for an ecosystem. Aboriginal people did, however. So the Dharawal people of southern Sydney, they call this shark Boambilla, which is the great shark spirit. So by planting a dreaming story or cultural lore on these sharks, they gave it a level of protection that just wasn't understood in, I guess, the Western world. So the second question I always get asked is, what do you actually do? Before I answer that one, I'll tell you a little bit about how I got to where I am. So I grew up in Ghana country, in this beautiful place here. This is Selix Beach, a place of big prehistoric cliffs, pristine beaches, and potentially one of the oldest reef systems in the world. From a young age, I was infatuated with everything nature, birds, bees, trees, plants, anything that was nature, it was all about it. So I spent pretty much every summer down here in the beach, under the water. So from a very young age, naturally, my dream job was to be a professional bird nest finder. For some reason, I don't know why, it was just my thing. I walked past a tree like, there's a bird nest. So I thought that was going to be my next career. So that went on for a lot longer than I'd like to admit. I think maybe I was about 10 or 11. Mum finally told me, she's like, you might want to broaden your horizons. It's not actually a job. And then probably later that year, or maybe the following year, Dad took me on a family holiday to the Great Barrier Reef. I spent that much time under the water looking at coral that I made myself sick from swallowing so much seawater. But I knew from then that I wanted to be a marine biologist. But I had to get through high school first. So I started high school in 2008, probably before many of you were even born. It's a scary thought. And I was one of very few Aboriginal people there. It made me quite hard to be proud about my heritage, to be loud, because if you were any kind of different, it made you a pretty easy target. If any of you are going through that, trust me, it gets a lot easier. You know, be loud, be proud. I wasn't the greatest student. I was very distractive to everyone, but somehow I would still pass all my tests and do very well. Probably quite frustrating to most teachers in this room. I worked throughout high school, so I got my first job when I was 13, and by the end of high school I was doing 2 part-time jobs, definitely working more than I was attending school. I definitely don't recommend this. So I'd very much lost the sight of being a marine biologist. I always told people I wanted to be a marine biologist. I didn't know what that meant. And with the lack of understanding of marine biology, and I didn't have any inspiration like you guys do with this STEM Congress, I dropped all my science subjects and decided that I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was going to take a year off after high school to kind of work out what I wanted to do. That was until Dad found out that I was going to take a year off. And he said, I remember him saying quite clearly, like, if you don't know what to do, just do something. You know, you got to get your foot in the door. So he pretty much kindly helped me / forced me to apply for university, which I can't thank him for enough. Shout out to Dad, he's in the room somewhere here. So I sat down, went through the list of things to apply for at university. The only thing that came up was a Bachelor of Zoology at Adelaide University or a Bachelor of Science in Marine Biology at Flinders University. Somehow, a miracle, I passed year 12 by not attending as much as I should. Got my ATAR, but it wasn't enough to get me into a degree of marine biology. So here comes my first plug. This is Flinders University Indigenous Admission Scheme. So if you haven't heard about this and you want to go to university, I recommend you get in touch with them. So this is through the Indigenous faculty of Flinders, Yungarendi. I didn't have the prerequisites to get into university, so I wasn't accepted. But through the Indigenous Admission Scheme, I interviewed and they said that I had the ATAR to get myself into a Bachelor of Arts, and if I did well in that, I could enrol into a Bachelor of Science in Marine Biology. So there's other ways to get to where you want to be through programs like this. But I had to get through that first year to call myself a marine biologist. So I grew up admiring this man. Does anyone know who this is? Sir David Attenborough, yes. So I still admire this man. He has produced some very great things, and his education to people about the importance of the marine world, but not just the marine world, the animal world. My first year of university was pretty much a David Attenborough documentary, but just way more details. So I was hooked. I smashed out the first year and I was enrolled straight into a marine biology bachelor's. But while I was there, I was approached by this company. So this is my second plug. This is Career Tracker's Indigenous internship program or leadership program. So if you're planning to go to university, again, get in touch with these people. They actually take on high school kids, and what they do is they get students into potential companies that give them experiences. So you can either work out what you want to do or what you don't want to do by getting these experiences. Experiences like this, you'll put your years ahead of anyone that has a degree. It's not enough just to have a degree, you need to get experiences broadly. So my internship was for a company called Worley Parsons down in Perth, and I worked from Perth all the way up the northwestern coast of Western Australia, all the way up to Port Hedland. Like I said, this experience is something that a lot of people don't get to do, and I got to broaden my knowledge of different species in different areas. Does anyone know what this mystical creature is? Stingray? Stingray? Manta ray, very good. Again, not a professional videographer. Oh, that should be bigger. This is not my photo, I wish. But So yeah, a manta ray, again, very, very important species. To Aboriginal people, if you have presence of stingrays or manta rays, it's meant to be, the lands are quite fertile, so it's good hunting and good fishing. So in Western science, we've come to call this an ecological indicator species. So it gives you an indication of how healthy that country is. I love manta rays. They're actually part of the shark family, so they're constrictothes, which means that they're made of cartilage, like your nose and your ears. It makes them very hard to study, because once they die, they've got no bones left. So I finished off my 3 years of university, and while I was there, I was told it's hard to get a good job in marine biology unless you have a PhD or an honours. So again, that sight of becoming a marine biologist was lost. So I took the first job that I could to get some money. I took a job for a construction company called CPB as an environmental coordinator. And that means that I was quite broad environmental science. So I looked at things like air quality, so dust and emissions, water quality, fresh water, marine, all of it, contamination, which would be heavy metals or acid sulfates, noise and vibration, and then the flora and fauna. So this is a 2-year graduate program. Again, I knew it wasn't marine biology and it wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was just that experience. Again, you don't know what to do, just do something. I remember being close to the end of the degree and I was doing a pre-clearance inspection. So you go out, have a look at the pocket of trees and you see what animals are there, anything that could be potentially impacted before they clear. I remember looking into the trees, looking for the birds, and I was looking for bird nests. So i.e. I was getting paid to look for bird nests, a professional bird nest finder. I remember calling Mum being super stoked. She wasn't as happy. I was like, I told you I could do it. So I quit. Not because I hit the pinnacle of my career, but because I was still wanting to chase that dream of marine biology. So I needed to go back to university to either do my PhD or something similar. So instead of doing that, I took a job tour guiding in the Greek islands on a sailboat. Probably not the right move, but again, it was just experience. Like, this was phenomenal. I learned how to work on boats. I got trained up as a scuba diver because what I found out is I want to become a tour guide. You get to take people around and you get to show them the underwater world or the above water world or even on land. But that didn't last too long because of that's meant to be COVID. So people were sneezing, spreading germs. I'm still not sure if they're sneezing or they're making fart noises, but all the same. So I had to come back to Adelaide to South Australia, and I was waiting for the borders to open up and waiting for travel to open up again, which, as you all know, it wasn't fast, it didn't happen. So I was sitting there again and I didn't know what to do. So that thing that Dad told me, you don't know what to do something. So I took a job with the EPA, South Australian Environment Protection Authority, as an air quality scientist, which meant that I was going to be sitting in an office 5 days a week, sitting in front of a computer, just looking at data, which scared me. I love being outdoors, I need to be outdoors. But again, it was just experience that I needed to have. You might not know that you know the EPA, but if you've seen the Simpsons movie, EPA, when they put the dome over the city, that's us, pretty much. So we look after anything that's environmentally important or significant. So we regulate pollution to make sure that they're not doing the wrong thing. So I took that job as an air quality scientist, but by some miracle, I was sitting right across from the marine science team. So I just pestered them non-stop. I was like, oh, you're marine science, what do you do? Do you need a hand? And eventually I wore them down to go, okay, we've got some field work coming up. Do you want to come out and give us a hand? I'm like, yeah, sure. And they never let me go. So I ended up joining the dive team and I've been there for about 2.5 years now, and I guess this leads me to finally answer the question of what do I do as a marine biologist. So I work on a massive variety of different projects. Most thing that we work on is seagrass. So seagrass, like the shark, is a very, very important species, but rather from the top down, from the bottom up. They're what you call a primary producer, so they feed a lot of pretty much everything that goes through the ecosystem. They're also very good at being a habitat for juvenile fish. They hold in sand together, so if you don't have seagrass, you won't have beaches in some areas. They also play a very important part in climate change. So they store carbon in their root system, and it's meant to be 3 times more, potentially more than that, than what terrestrial trees do. So they're very important. This is actually a project looking at how many seeds are per square metre in the seagrass meadow, so that's why we have the tape measure. So this project here is another one to do with seagrass. I'm pretty obsessed with seagrass. You might think it's just that gross stuff that touches in the water. I don't. I love it. This is looking at how much carbon stored in the seagrass. So this is a collaboration with Adelaide University. We went all around the state driving these cores into the water. So I don't know if you've ever scuba dived in the water, but try scuba diving under the water with a sledgehammer, with currents, and all this stuff attached to you. It's not easy work, but fun. Do a lot of work with microplastics. So if you don't know what microplastics are, I suggest you talk to your teachers. They are quite scary. And teachers, if you don't know what microplastics are, you can come talk to me. I'll happily talk to anyone about them. Yeah, very, very scary stuff. This one here, we're trying to start a pufferfish school. No, not really. This is more seagrass. This is actually a study looking at restoration of seagrass. So off of Adelaide Metro Coast, we've lost over 6,000 hectares of seagrass, which I probably should have tried to compare that against something, but it's massive. It's a lot of seagrass to lose. So we're trying to work out ways that we can bring this back. This one here is a collaboration with University Technology in Sydney. So we're looking at microbial communities in the sediment, so the little tiny bacteria and stuff like that. But this was at the bottom of a wastewater treatment plant. So I don't know if you know what a wastewater treatment plant is, but that's where all your toilet stuff gets sent before it gets out into the ocean. So I had to dive these ponds. So it's not always as glamorous as what it sounds. That much that probably 65% of my time is spent in the office or on land. So I got to look after these 2 boats. So the one on the right is Diomedia, so that's the wandering albatross, and the one on the left is Norrie, which is a Nurrinjeri name for the pelican. So I got this artwork made up by a local artist. I'm pretty much taken over the science team of everything Aboriginal as I can. I also have to dive in throughout winter, and the water's like 12 degrees at the moment. I don't know if you've been in the ocean, but it's funny, it's actually warmer in the water than what it is outside of the water. And I've had to be in places where you almost don't see where you're diving. So this is Coffin Bay. Meant to be pretty pristine on the surface, it looks great, but under the water it's a very different story. It's made of really soft sediment. So since European colonisation, it's gone through a lot of landscape changes and it's really impacted. So we're here looking at ways that we can restore this environment and bring it back to what it was pre-colonisation. I've probably been up here longer than I should. So I'll leave you with a thank you and I guess a few take-home messages. One from my dad is, if you don't know what to do, just do something. Because if you can gain experience in any kind of area, it's going to put you in a better spot than most. And you'll work out exactly what you do and what you don't want to do. And it's, again, just that experience. Like, it's not enough just to have a degree. If you really want to be the best at what you do, get every kind of experience you can. Thank you.